Hey, it's your favorite ranting coyote. One would think that because of this pandemic, I'd have a lot more time to write, record, edit, and release more videos, but that simply isn't the case. There was a period when I wasn't really working between my two jobs because it was among the first to be hit, but I've actually been very fortunate and I've been working pretty regularly. Since May, once we figured out what we could and couldn't do, I've been good, but my heart does go out to those who have not been as fortunate as I. Of course, I've been picking and choosing my time to speak out what's on my mind, but for the most part, I've tried to keep my mouth shut on a lot of ongoing issues and trends until I can piece together what's going on. I've had a lot to say about the mask mandates, the election fraud investigation, and what seems to be an imminent second lockdown because of the surge in cases and deaths from this godforsaken commie cough. I finally decided, screw it, I'll talk about all of it, and hopefully make up for the lack of content. So for those that actually like listening to my voice for a long period of time, here you go, the 2020 Pandemic Super Rant. If you remember, I was okay with the shelter-in-place orders, and I was mad at people not following orders and crowding parks and continuing to mass gather outside, because I was under the impression this would only take a few weeks to a couple months. And of course, everything was new. We didn't really understand how this virus was spread, and I still think we don't 100% know for sure. But I'd like to think we have a better grasp than we did in March, right? Even when I was on the side of, okay, let's see how this lockdown goes, let's give this a shot, I never stopped disagreeing with the side that said that this was unconstitutional, that our governments didn't have the right to boss us around, decide what was essential and non-essential, and basically pick who could work and who couldn't. But the weeks turned into months, and the months turned into season. 9 months into this, and we're about to enter a second lockdown because it worked so well the first time. The states that had the strictest policies also seem to be a hotbed for new positive cases. I mean, in New York, people who were forced to stay in their apartments and share the same ventilation system, they all got screwed. We've eased back up and closed back down, seemingly out of sheer panic several times over the last 9 months. Even in California as early as May and June, restaurants have cycled through being able to eat indoors versus, nope, can't do it. Oh, no, you can eat indoors again. No, nope, don't do that. Nope, can't do that. Nope, sorry, we can't have people making money. But of course, anytime we were allowed to eat inside, and many times businesses were allowed to start operating again. People felt good. They felt like we could start hiring people again. We can get things back to normal. We can get the economy going again. But then the Floyd thing happens. More mass protests. And of course, the spike in cases happen. The first of several fucking hundred times. And as I mentioned before in a prior rant, it was okay to go out and mass protest, but it wasn't okay to dine in restaurants, go to gyms, or attend religious services? Oh, we'll lift up restrictions when people stop getting sick. That's not going to fucking happen. At that point, it's easy to think that certain politicians are using it as a way to stay in power, even if their own state's judicial stores are saying, enough. Oh, it's because people aren't practicing social distancing and wearing masks. Bullshit. Most people are complying. Some people wear masks while driving alone inside their cars or alone in their houses. I've even met people who keep them on outside while enjoying the sights of a national park 30 miles away from the nearest town. You can't tell me people aren't taking this seriously. Speaking of masks, who here is sick of these mask mandates? You should all be raising your hands. I don't think anybody in their right mind has ever thought, yay, I'm so excited, I get to wear masks. As an ice hockey coach, it's 100% ridiculous that coaches have to wear them. Even if I have my skates on and I'm skating with my players on the ice, I'm breathing the same air as my players, and those things do nothing but collect sweat while I'm trying to talk or collect more sweat from my hands after they've been in my sweaty, stinky gloves when needing to pull it down to blow my freaking whistle. And even when we could start dining in restaurants, the mask rules were stupid. Needing to have one on while outside and walking into the restaurant, only allowed to take it off while sitting at the table. And you have our amazing California governor with a note from his office saying, you need to put your mask back on in between bites if you're eating at a restaurant. Are you fucking kidding me? These things are already dirty enough from constantly having to put one on or adjust it because every time you open your mouth to talk, the thing slides down and your nose gets uncovered. Put it back over your nose, you're going to expose me and I'm going to die. Uh-oh, you're risking exposure to a virus you have over a 98% chance of not getting. And even if you do, you have over a 98% chance of surviving. It's already stupid enough as when it comes to going out and eating at a restaurant. It makes no sense to have to wear one outside in a parking lot when you're getting gas, or in a parking lot while you're walking into a place of business. Only for you to be allowed to sit down at a restaurant. Taken from a post that's been going around on social media. Let's go out to eat 2020 style. 1. Arrive at a restaurant. Fish out that 3-month-old single-use surgical mask out of the car's cup holder. Still slightly sticky from this morning's 84-ounce Diet Coke. Strap up with 3-month-old single-use surgical mask and voila! The magical anti-germ barrier is engaged. Proceed in the restaurant, opening door with the same handle grabbed by hundreds of people so far. Hostess has immediate seating for you and you walk past the entire restaurant of unmasked people. It's okay, they're sitting down. You sit down and your seated anti-germ force field has been engaged. Safely, within your anti-germ force field, you remove your mask. Browse the menu while making relaxed inhales of the same recirculated air previously inside the lungs of hundreds of people that have grabbed the door handle. Your waiter drops off the drinks barehanded, and you drink your drink, secure in knowing you're within your anti-germ force field. Oh, too many drinks, need to pee. We need to don the magical anti-germ barrier mask as you leave your anti-germ force field and walk past 40 unmasked restaurant patrons. Open the bathroom door with the same knob grabbed by hundreds of people so far today, and then return to the table past those same unmasked patrons and remove the mask and once again safe in your anti-germ force field. Waitress takes your sweaty drink glass with her bare hand, refills and hands it back to you. You accept with your bare hand. Grab some bread and eat it. Same hand. Meal complete. Mask back on. Walk past the 40 unmasked people and make full body contact with at least 4 people waiting at the hostess stand as you squeeze your way back to the door. No matter, they're all wearing the same magical anti-germ barriers. And then you touch the exit handle, which you're now the 220th person of the day to touch. Breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that even after leaving the protection of your home and venturing into the scary world of public, you are actually sterile thanks to your state-approved methods of magical germ force fields. Oh boy. Am I against wearing them? No, I am in favor of wearing them if it makes sense. I understand if you're in a tight building with people inside and you're trying to protect yourself from others on the spread. Okay, fine, I get that. You're in the medical field, you need to have one on while around sick patients. I get that. You're on an airplane or in any place that is a known cesspool of bacteria. I get that. And I understand if it's something you personally feel makes you safer. If your mask is doing just fine, who the fuck cares if somebody else doesn't wear it? When I see people alone outside or alone inside a car with these things on, I don't see compliance, I see fear. I see people look like they're grasping for oxygen if the plane is depressurized and they're almost about to die of hypoxia if they take these things off for just a second. People are getting fined for being out in public without one, then I must ask, why do people vote for politicians that make that law? Are you alone inside in a car, especially with recirculating air? You don't need it on. You're not protecting anyone. You're just being fucking fearful. The other day I went to get gas and for some odd reason the card reader and the pump told me to go see the cashier. In other words, the thing that's supposed to prevent you from having to go inside is telling me to go inside and buy gas. Okay, fine, it happens, whatever. I quickly head to the door, forgetting my mask, and opened the door to the 7-Eleven, and the cashier instantly gestured me to go put my mask on. The thing about this is that there was a thick visor of glass between myself and the cashier, and she had a mask on and a visor between myself. She could not be any more COVID proof. So what's the freaking point if I'm just in there unmasked for 10 seconds to say, hey, the pump told me I need to get gas here. I've literally seen people walking around in LA wearing one for the aesthetic so that from a distance you look like you have one on, but up close you can see they have a freaking cigarette in their mouth. I recognize businesses have a right to say you need to have one on. Fine. If there is no mandate but businesses say keep one on, okay, I'll keep it on. I don't agree with entitled Karens who make a scene about not wearing a mask in these situations, but at the same time, if private businesses end up losing business because enough people would rather just go to a place where they don't have to wear one, then that's where capitalism wins, my friend. I also think there are plenty of private businesses that would prefer they don't have to enforce that mandate, but they have to anyway. And if stores are now being told not to engage with people who refuse to wear one, what's the point of the mandate? You don't quarantine the healthy, you quarantine the sick. You keep the sick and high risk away from the healthy. And don't get me started on Gretchen Whitmer, how she handled her case. Oh yeah, because it's such a good idea to put a man convicted of repeated offenses against the elderly in the same unit with elderly people because they both have COVID. We've already had youth sports take a massive nosedive here in California. Many places that are dependent on youth sports to operate have to get by unofficially. So we can keep kids playing and exercising because they already have to sit in front of a computer all day for school with no PE or recess time, and they're told they can't exercise? I'm not saying this virus is a joke. I'm not saying that I'm not at risk of getting it. I mean, with the rule of tens, if one person who gets it exposes to 10 people, then by now pretty much everyone in the country has been exposed to it. I know for sure that I've been exposed at some point because I've had family members in direct contact with confirmed cases, and people at my work have tested positive. So I'm not saying that I'll never get it. Shit, it's entirely possible that over the 7-month period, I could have tested positive and not even known that I had it. If you're someone who is immune compromised or if a friend or family member who is, then you obviously shouldn't be out in public. But if you're going to visit someone who is at higher risk after being out in public, then have some common sense and practice basic hygiene. It is not that fucking hard. Here in Riverside County, where I live, where Newsom has this weird colored tier system to determine the level of restriction, we've actually started to get in the less restrictive red tier over the summer and early fall. But then we were told to go back to the more restrictive purple, even though the number of deaths was going down, and we weren't getting that many new cases at the time. And their reasoning? Not enough people getting tested, thus not enough conclusive evidence statistically. Bull fucking shit. The only time I got tested was when I had 9 people at my work in LA test positive within a week. And I did so to make my family feel better and show my work that I was fine, which I was. And again, I work in a place where everyone needs to have a mask on while walking through and interacting with staff, and you're only allowed to take them off when you're alone inside a closed office. So it's not like my day job has not been respecting the pandemic and taking it seriously. But forcing people to get tested to make the stats more conclusive, even though we're not sick or have been knowingly exposed to anyone with the damn virus, is total horseshit. The people supporting the riots and protests were crying foul over all the MAGA rallies attracting thousands of people and vice versa. Rules for thee, but not for me. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't care what political side you're on. If you're allowed to go and do one, you're allowed to go to do the other. You're allowed to go protest. If you support the protests and the riots, then you should support people's right to gather at MAGA rallies. And the more this shit dragged on, the more people started to see how ridiculous these policies and enforcements were, especially on restaurants and businesses. I mean, you were not allowed to dine inside, but if your restaurant set up a tent outside, you could eat outside, inside a tent outside. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, fine. Statistically, you're more likely to get this bug inside someone's home or inside a building. And what do these smart politicians do? Move to prevent people from being outside and being indoors as much as possible. Yes, that makes perfect sense. Make people stay inside where they are more statistically more likely to get it. But it just became more and more apparent that these shutdowns and mask mandates were not working. People are still catching it and testing positive and getting sick, and yes, sadly, people are dying. But let's not forget that hospitals and medical facilities are getting more funding the more they deal with positive COVID cases. So even if you died of something completely different, if you just happen to test positive, then you died of COVID. Died of a gunshot wound, or someone stabbed your femoral artery and you bled out, you died of COVID. The LA Dodgers, when they won the World Series, Justin Turner getting his test results in the middle of a game and being pulled out just as they're about to win the series and can't join the celebration even though he was asymptomatic. Wait a minute, I thought the players were all isolated in a bubble with just their families while constantly being tested. Oh, sure, they allowed a tiny number of fans to attend this gigantic stadium. The fans really weren't that close to the players. But with all the precautions they took and one player still testing positive, right after he'd been constantly isolated testing negative before the game, it's almost as if big shocker, lockdowns don't fucking work. Oh, but you can be asymptomatic and still spread it to someone and make them get sick. That's what viruses do. That's what the flu does. The common cold does that. It's not that the virus is a joke. It's the way politicians have been handling it. That's been the joke. And speaking of politics, how about that election result, huh? One of my YouTube friends sent a voice message during election night. Well, it looks like we got 4 more years of Trump, like you said. It was near midnight in my time while he was in Indiana. Despite everything that was going on, I learned since 2016 to stop trusting the media and everything they said. I saw a growing support for Trump, and when election time came, I just did not see Biden as the most likely winner. I figured most people voting for Biden were only voting that way because they hated Trump. And based on what I was seeing, the fact that rallies were attracting thousands of people versus Biden barely attracting only a few dozen most of the time, and the fact that the more the media kept trying to protect Biden and attack Trump, the more Trump gained support, I didn't see Biden winning. Election night comes, and even though Arizona's swinging blue as a surprise, I figured, okay, it's because of the moron California transplants voting for the same policies that made him move out of California in the first place. But Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia were showing Trump having huge leads, like leading by 6 figures. And I was thinking, Biden can have Arizona and Nevada. It won't matter. But then it stopped counting. I stayed up until Steven Crowder decided to end his election night stream because it looked like they were saying they'll resume counting later in the morning the next day. I woke up and I saw that these states were now leading blue because suddenly over 100,000 plus votes came in for Biden. And if you looked at those graphs, you just saw a huge spike. Crowder said in his next stream the night after the election, he saw the numbers magically shift, like almost in perfect coincidence. And it seemed like it was the perfect amount of votes that just gave Biden the edge. And even though Trump was hugely surpassing his performance in popular vote compared to 2016, you're telling me that Biden has more votes than Obama ever got? I understand Obama getting 72 million votes, but Biden? Someone who can't finish his sentence, someone who is not the most popular candidate in the Democratic convention, someone whose vice president pick, through careful wording, essentially said in a DNC debate that she believed his accusers, someone whose son is currently under criminal investigation, someone a lot of people think is a creepy old pedophile with rape allegations, and who couldn't attract mold at his rallies if he left the bread out too long, someone who has been on record saying integrating black students would turn schools into racial jungles, with a running mate that saw more California black men sent to prison under her watch than anyone. This motherfucker has more votes than Obama ever got? A person who said on live TV he will end certain industries that respective states like Michigan and Pennsylvania are dependent on, and he's winning those states? 56% of Americans think they're better off than they were 4 years ago before the pandemic. Huge growth in income, unemployment lower. But Biden is a superior candidate? Seriously, Trump could cure cancer and people could still be like, I don't care, I still don't like Trump, he's a racist. Say what you will about Trump, but you have to acknowledge that there is a huge voting base for him, and it's grown even more so than before. Did he really get that much more hate? I can understand it if it was places like California and New York. I can understand Biden still getting the popular vote. But states that won Trump in 2016 are turning blue for Biden? That does not add up. Am I missing something? Have you ever played a sports game and benefited from a bad call made by the referee, and your team wins the game even though an important point was arguably acquired because of poor officiating? You don't forfeit, you go along with it because a W is a W. So of course, if you voted for Biden, you see nothing wrong because it's your guy in the lead. It's your guy that made the comeback and is now winning. And if that's the case, it feels like Sacha Baron's title character in The Dictator, where he has the power to win every competition by changing the rules during the actual contest. But if this was Biden, if he had a sizable lead, only for him to go the way of the Atlanta sports teams and squander it because hundreds of thousands of Trump votes just arrived in these crates, wouldn't you be thinking the same thing? Wouldn't you be thinking, wait a minute, there is something fishy about this? And that's the problem. You currently have millions of people who are disenfranchised over this election, especially because you have a lot of reports of insane things like poll watchers not being allowed to see votes being counted. Polls being censored, polls being blocked off so people couldn't see, and numerous reports of vans pulling up filled with boxes of ballots to be sorted after the poll watchers were told, nope, you go home, we're not doing anything. You had issues with votes being discounted because of the Sharpie fiasco. And with these ongoing court cases, there are tons of sworn affidavits from witnesses saying they saw this foul play at hand, and even video evidence exists of it. And of course, despite the lawsuits that are going on, you have all these figureheads saying, we found no substantial evidence of voter fraud or foul play at work, not enough to decide the election. And the media trying to play it off as Trump being a sore loser and wasting everyone's time. Well, again, how many referees in hockey miss a call that everyone watching the game could obviously see? Nearly 3 decades later, and Leafs fans are still mad at that Kerry Fraser non-call in 1993. And when I played, I had a teammate whose playing career was basically ended in a state tournament by an intentional cheap shot. And even though we had it on video, clear as day, when we showed it to the sanctioning officials, they ruled inconclusive. Another time in Oakland, we caught the other team sneaking in their star player who was supposed to be serving a suspension, and the Oakland officials let it slide, saying, oh, he'll serve it after the game. Only for that player to get both their goals in a 2-0 win against us. If it was called right, that team should have forfeited, just by having that guy play. So even in youth sports, I have seen shady shit happen firsthand, and this election result is shady beyond shady at a federal level, if you ask me. Look, if you voted for Biden and the investigations find that all his votes were legitimate, then what's the problem? Would you rather see Republicans take up arms, riot, and burn down cities? Oh, wait, that's what Biden supporters do when they lose. Instead, once the media announced that Biden is going to be elected, even though, as of this recording, there has been no official concede from Trump, many of my LA friends and coworkers were sharing videos on social media of the city celebrating. And the same people who got mad at MAGA rallies attracting thousands were now celebrating in the streets. And look, if I'm wrong about this, then I will accept that I'm wrong, because that's what you do when you're trying to get the right information. I understand a lot of this is he said, she said. And even as I record this, it's far from over. I get it. The courts rule in favor of Trump, bad shit happens. Courts rule in favor of Biden, bad shit happens. And no matter what happens, damage has been done. You're already seeing a massive distrust in the transparency from mainstream media and big tech companies because their biases are too obvious at this point. My church did a live stream for Sunday service before the election due to COVID telling California churches not to open. And the live stream got shut down by Facebook several times until they didn't include the words "Pray for America" in the title. A church live stream is not allowed to say the word "pray" in their title? If there's anything that the Kavanaugh hearings, the impeachment, and the handling of the pandemic by elite Democrats has proven, it's proving how feckless these people are willing to go. And with the election results looking way too fishy to be true as a result of all these absentee and mail-in votes going for Biden, it's easy to think, yep, they're cheating. Biden winning just proves to the Trump votes that his side did everything they could do to change the rules to get their way. And if Trump wins and gets the courts to overturn the results, then it's more fuel to the fire for progressives, BLM, and Antifa to do the shit that they've been doing, claiming Trump is a dictator refusing to give up powers. Once again, further dividing people. No matter how much we try to make sense of this 2020 election, how long this will take, what will eventually happen, the damage has been done. But of course, as the year is coming to a close, as I'm prepping to do astronomy outreach for 2 big celestial events, we have this cloud of another inevitable lockdown looming as the holidays are here and people don't want other people to travel. I coached at a hockey tournament in Phoenix where I had 4 players be told by their parents they couldn't go because their respective parents' work told them not to travel, and if they did, they'd be forced to quarantine for 14 days and lose money. You know, there's ridiculous Thanksgiving orders by Governor Newsom who said you must keep gatherings to a 2-hour minimum, wear your mask, social distance, hold it outside, and discourage people from singing. Yet he was also caught partying at an expensive restaurant unmasked with 20 other people, and the same people who were telling us don't travel and keep pushing for more restrictions were also the same people vacationing in Hawaii. It's gotten to the point where even the World Health Organization has been telling us, stop the lockdowns as a primary means of defense. But governors continue to stop listening to the World Health Organization because now their agenda doesn't fit with the World Health Organization. It's pretty much at the point now where it's no longer about recovering the economy. It's just keeping these assholes in control. You have people who are fighting back and protesting for the right to go back to work. They don't want to rely on handouts anymore. They just want to go back to work. But at the same time, the other side is fighting, no. We just want to keep the unemployment insurance going. We want to keep the handouts going. This will only work if the other side can actually go back to work, pay taxes, and pay for their fucking handouts. Oh no, we'll just get it from the billionaires because Bernie Sanders says so. They don't pay enough taxes. But then what happens when you drive out all the billionaires who are responsible for employing thousands of jobs in the first place? Then who are these idiots going to go after? Again, these young people are fighting for less rights and for more handouts, are fighting against the side that can provide it. Cities who keep locking down and shutting down businesses and reducing how much revenue they could get in parking meters and tourism are now crying budget crisis and telling tenured city staff they're getting paid too much money and push them to retire, furloughing other city employees as well. Well, then open back up and let the economy go back to normal. Oh no, we can't do that, it's COVID. Well, then you can't cry about the loss of money when you continue to prevent your city and your citizens are making money. No, we gotta trust the science. Well, there's a reason why you don't have scientists and medical professionals run the economy. You have economists do that. And then there's a reason why you don't have an economist entrusted with performing heart surgery or germ research. And of course, like clockwork, we keep hearing, oh, the vaccine's coming, it's gonna be super effective, it's gonna be awesome. And we keep getting told, nope, can't do this, nope, can't do that, nope, stop being selfish, it's not about you. As far as I'm concerned, if you celebrated in the streets with a bunch of people over a media-called election win, or attended mass protests, or rioted during a pandemic where people are on edge over how this goddamn virus is spread, then you can't tell people they can't go celebrate Thanksgiving or any other holiday they wish. People getting mad over religious services being held, especially in New York, with the Jewish community. It goes both ways. If you're allowed to mass gather for a Black Lives Matter protest, then you should be allowed to attend the religious service of your choice. You can't support one but not the rights for the other, because that's not how the fucking First Amendment works. First you try and defund the police and get your city or state officials to back that, and by doing so you completely alienate the politicians from actual police officers in the front line, and then you expect them to enforce the more restrictions when their hands are already full trying to target traffickers, rapists, and child endangerers and murderers. Oh, you want them to enforce stupid mask laws on people being outside? Oh yeah, well how is that going to look if you get the police to show up and shut down a Jewish synagogue? Oh, we're going to start hiding people in the attic because they don't want to wear masks while attending church? Oh, my point of this entire super rant is, this is just not right. Something is not right here. The lockdowns, the mandates, the election, all these things where it's easy to see the irregularities, the inconsistencies, the double standards, the rules for thee, not for me bullshit. The ongoing censorship of media narratives. Oh, but you have a dissenting opinion that doesn't agree with the other side. You think that so much of this is totally against what our Constitution and Bill of Rights stand for? Oh, no. You're just brainwashed, you're a simpleton, you're conspiracy-minded. No, I genuinely think there is something evil afoot, and it's not going to get any better. And I hope that I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. But the more I think about it, the more stressed up and fired up I get. For that reason, I'm just going to try and quote-unquote social distance from politics and idiot government officials as much as I can and focus on the things that I actually like doing. I'm fortunate to be able to do the things that I can do despite the crisis. My day job stays the same, no matter what president takes office in January. I will continue to do my astronomy outreach stuff and do my part in capturing the big events in the sky because I enjoy it. And at the same time, just like an astronomer, I will continue to observe, notice the changes over time, and do what I can do to survive whatever is thrown at me. You took the time to listen to me, which I thank you for. Just take my advice. Do what you enjoy doing, live your life, and stop letting this pandemic control you. I'm Desert Coyote 22. Thanks for listening.